An education budget bill receives the governor's approval, mostly. A preview of Tuesday's statewide elections, and the latest concerning Norman, Oklahoma's proposed entertainment district. This is the KGOU AM News Brief for Monday, June 17th, 2024. I'm Jim Johnson. Governor Kevin Stitt signed the budget bill for the State Department of Education into law Friday and vetoed two sections that would have put guardrails on State Superintendent Ryan Walters. But as State Impact's Beth Wallace reports, Stitt also issued an executive order shortly after that addressed some of those issues.
In addition to the $25 million more into the state funding formula, the bill also had two controversial sections. One would have prevented the department from using state funds on public relations campaigns and media appearances, and another would have required approval from the legislature to not apply for federal grants that had been applied for previously. Stitt line item vetoed those sections. He says the media restriction would have imposed a prohibition on one statewide elected official and prevented the department from addressing constituent concerns. As for the federal grant section, he says he's unaware of another state agency with such restrictions. Walters claimed victory in a press release, but Stitt announced an executive order shortly after that prohibits all state agencies from contracts with PR firms made without a bidding process and bans contracts with firms related to political campaigns or that employ lobbyists. It bans any state employee from using tax dollars for self-promotion. For State Impact, I'm Beth Wallace.
Tomorrow, voters in all 77 counties in Oklahoma will decide tax questions and vote in primaries for their local, state, and congressional representatives. State Capitol reporter Lionel Ramos has more on what voters can expect at the polls.
Every seat in Oklahoma's House of Representatives is up for grabs, as well as a few state Senate seats. But some voters will see more races on their ballots than others. That's because 50 candidates for House and Senate districts across the state are running for office uncontested. They won't be on the ballot now, nor in November. They've already won their races. In addition, county commissioner races across the state are on alternating schedules year to year, so only some races in some counties will be shown on the ballot. 3 Republican incumbents in Oklahoma's congressional delegation have inter-party challengers, and a handful of Democrats vying for their deep red districts as well. The primary winners will advance to the general election in November. If none can get a majority, the top 2 finishers will advance to a runoff election in August. In Oklahoma City, I'm Lionel Ramos.
A more than 5-hour Norman Planning Commission meeting Thursday night ultimately led to a recommendation to the City Council to approve the development of an entertainment district that includes a new basketball arena for OU. KGOU's Logan Layden has more from the meeting and what comes next.
Residential development, retail business, office space, an arena, green space infrastructure. It all adds up to hundreds of millions of dollars funded by the city, taxpayers, the university, and private investment. It's a massive project, and there are strong opinions both for and against it.
We want to talk about the numbers. The numbers show that 8,000 to 8,500 seat arenas is what is not just needed, but required for athletic events, for concerts.
Is it a good investment? And I asked that question to some of the people who spoke here. I asked that question to the chair of the TIP Oversight Committee, and the answer was simple. It was no, it's not a good investment.
Thursday's Planning Commission meeting came after the City Council earlier in the week approved a survey and a citywide vote later this year to gauge the public. But the ball is now back in the City Council's court after the Planning Commission gave its approval of the project. I'm Logan Layden.
Oklahoma State University Extension experts say fewer people working in agriculture in some northwest Oklahoma counties are adopting broadband internet. OPMX's Anna Pope reports that OSU researchers discovered this trend using data from the most recent census of agriculture.
Some agriculture households in northwest Oklahoma had lower levels of broadband adoption when compared to other areas in the state. Brian Whitaker is a rural economic development extension specialist. He was surprised to see the numbers slightly decrease in 3 western Oklahoma counties.
But it's really just a function of there's less farms that are reporting. And so that's, I think, is what's happening there in the Northwest.
Whitaker says broadband connectivity numbers have grown since the COVID-19 pandemic as people realize its importance. Overall, from 2019 to 2022, the percentage of Oklahoma households with broadband connection increased from about 84% to 89%. In Oklahoma City, I'm Anna Pope.
And I'm Jim Johnson. Thank you for making KGOU your on-demand NPR news source. You can find out more about this public media service on our website, kgou.org. And be sure to follow us on social media. We're at KGOU News on Facebook, Instagram, and X.
I'm Rachel Martin. You probably know how interview podcasts with famous people usually go. There's a host, a guest, and a light Q&A. But on Wildcard, we have ripped up the typical script. It's a new podcast from NPR where I invite actors, artists, and comedians to play a game using a special deck of cards to talk about some of life's biggest questions. Listen to Wildcard wherever you get your podcasts, only from NPR.